What made everyone suddenly fall in love with Trump? As great as he is, it's actually that he looks even greater compared to the last administration. Nothing inspires more love of Trump than the terrible incompetence of Pete Buttigieg. Welcome to John Mike Keene. Here's some polls from the enemy, CNN, praising Trump.
President Trump's transition net approval. You go back to November of 2016. Look at this. It was just at plus 1 point. Just at plus 1 point. That is well below the historical norm. Look at where we are today. Significantly higher, plus 18 points. That's 17 points higher on the presidential transition net approval rating.
How does Trump get 17 points more popular after 8 years of the media telling you that he's Hitler, he's hateful, he's a sexist, he's a racist, and yet he only gets more popular? Well, one answer is the horror and terror of the incompetence of Pete Buttigieg.
The Federal Highway Administration says only 7 or 8 charging stations have been produced with a $7.5 billion investment that taxpayers made back in 2021. Why isn't that happening more quickly?
So the president's goal is to have 500,000 chargers up by the end of this decade. Now, in order to do a charger, it's more than just plunking a small device into the ground. There's utility work, and this is also really a new category of federal investment.
I don't believe you. You're a flop sweat liar. $7 billion, and they only built 7 electric vehicle charging stations. Remember, Biden ran on this, that they were going to get 500,000 charging stations by 2030. That's a promise made. They're, by my count, 499,990 charging stations short of their goal in 2030. Of course, they just make a promise way into the future, and there's no accountability.
Formula dollars to do this work, engaging them in the first handful, again, by 2030, 500,000 chargers. And the very first...
He said 2030, and the CBS news person laughed at him. Do you see what they're doing? She sees what they're doing. When people see that kind of stupid incompetence, including Kamala Harris's getting everyone internet access, and they didn't get hardly any clients for $42 billion that they had set aside and spent. This makes Trump people hopeful that please come save us with your new administration.
If 8 years ago Americans were lukewarm on Donald Trump, at this particular point, they're giving him much more the benefit of the doubt. A lot more Americans are in love with this transition. This much more meets the historical norms where normally presidents get that boost coming out of their victory.
They're excited about Trump, and this is another thing that the Democrats didn't understand was just how unpopular and just how they've lost trust with the American people. They do not trust them. They know that we're in trouble. And now Trump is some kind of a reformer hero with his administration.
Presidential transition is getting a thumbs up, and dare I say, 2 thumbs up from the American people.
And, we're still on the appointment phase at this point, but it does give insight to sort of where this team is thinking to lead some of these key departments, of course. But how do people feel about the prospects of his presidency, given the context of some of these picks?
Yeah, it's not just that they like what Donald Trump is doing right now. They're optimistic for the future.
Not just what he's doing, they're actually optimistic. When we're Americans optimistic, and you have a vast majority of Americans that are optimistic.
So again, let's compare ourselves now versus where we were 8 years ago. And what you see 8 years ago, 53% of Americans were scared or concerned, the majority towards the upcoming Trump term. Look at where we are now. The shoe is on the other foot. 53% of Americans are excited or optimistic. It's flip-flop.
He changed it by 7 points from his last administration when he won against Hillary Clinton and took the reins from Obama for the presidency. People were only 46% optimistic. And now, after taking the reins from Biden, they're 7% more optimistic. He has a vast majority of the people believing he's going to do what's right. It's up to him, to blow this or to succeed. And I believe he's going to succeed. I'm John Mike Keene.